Today is Thursday, August 8th. What to know about a tropical storm now coming ashore on the East Coast and hundreds of earthquakes out west. Also, we have details about an alleged terror plot stopped that was meant to target Taylor Swift concerts. Plus, how long it could take to get a couple of stranded astronauts back on Earth. What new pain management options could now be offered before getting an IUD. And how classroom meditation seems to be making a big difference for kids. Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Tropical storm Debbie is still getting stronger as it soaks the East Coast. And one estimate says it could end up dropping up to 50 trillion gallons of rainwater along its path. As we talked about earlier this week, Debbie started as a hurricane in Florida, then forced evacuations and breached multiple dams in Georgia. This morning, it's expected to make landfall again along the coast of the Carolinas. But already, even before it comes on shore, it's been spawning storms across several states, from South Carolina to New York. Flooding is expected to last through next week. Meanwhile, on the West Coast, the ground has been shaking across a wide swath of Southern California. It started Tuesday night with a 5.2 magnitude earthquake near Bakersfield. And since then, there have been more than 200 aftershocks. Overall, there hasn't been much damage, but people have been wondering if there's a bigger earthquake to come, since a lot of aftershock activity could be a sign of that. Still, that risk is fairly low. Only about 5 to 10% of all California earthquakes are followed by a larger one within the week. The top two presidential candidates and their running mates are focused on Midwestern states that will likely determine the outcome of the November election. The Harris and Trump teams made dueling appearances even in some of the same cities yesterday. Vice President Harris and her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, attracted thousands of supporters in both Wisconsin and Michigan. Harris portrayed the Democratic ticket as so-called joyful warriors fighting for progress. Meanwhile, former President Trump's VP choice, Senator J.D. Vance, also held campaign events in Wisconsin and Michigan. He said everything Harris touches is a disaster, so it's time to kick her out of government and not give her a promotion. Vance also defended Trump for comments questioning Harris's biracial identity, saying Trump was right and calling the VP fake and a chameleon. Trump himself was not at the rallies, but called into Fox and Friends, where he said he wants to debate Harris soon. Both Harris and Vance have canceled planned trips to North Carolina today ahead of Tropical Storm Debbie. By the way, President Biden sat down for his first interview since dropping his re-election bid, and it will air this morning on CBS News. Well, more American women are getting abortions now than before Roe v. Wade was overturned in the Supreme Court. At least that's according to a new study from the Society of Family Planning. It says one big reason for the increase is new laws in some Democrat-led states. They protect doctors who use telemedicine to prescribe abortion pills to patients in other states, and even those with abortion bans. Supporters say telehealth cuts down on wait times at abortion clinics that provide in-person care, especially since many have been overwhelmed with patients coming from out of state. But abortion opponents say the fight over abortion pills is not over, as they've raised safety concerns, especially when the pills are prescribed remotely and patients are not screened in person. All this comes ahead of the November elections, where voters in many places will get the chance to either enshrine or reject state-level abortion protections. So expect to hear a lot more about this issue over the next few months. Well, authorities say they disrupted a terror plot with a major target, Taylor Swift concerts. Austrian police arrested two men for allegedly planning to attack Swift's Eras tour. Apparently, they were both radicalized on the internet and had specific, detailed plans for how to carry out an attack. Now, NBC News cites officials who say law enforcement officials are looking for even more people who may have knowledge of the plans. And with that, the event organizer canceled 3 shows scheduled for Vienna. Swift herself has not spoken about the cancellations yet. But in the past, she has said her biggest fear was a terrorist attack at one of her shows, and that every day she has to remind herself of the good in the world. 2 astronauts who were supposed to go on a week-long mission to the International Space Station have been stuck there for months now. And now NASA says it's possible they won't get back home until February. We're talking about the NASA astronauts who were on board the Boeing Starliner's first crewed test flight. Technical issues kept them from returning home as scheduled. And since then, the Wall Street Journal says Boeing has been vouching for the Starliner, saying it's now safe enough to bring the astronauts back to Earth. But there are some at NASA pushing back, saying recent tests raised concerns. And now agency officials say they're readying plans to bring them home aboard a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft next February. The good news is the astronauts aren't in any immediate danger aboard the space station. They're just living and working there alongside the existing crew. We have much more news for you still ahead. But first, thanks to our sponsor, Lumen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time, and Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Having optimal metabolic health translates into a bunch of benefits, including improved energy levels, better fitness results, and more. I find it especially fascinating because before Lumen, assessing your metabolic health required a lengthy, expensive process. But now you can get all that info in Lumen's handheld device. I'm learning so much about my body and how food affects me. Lumen even gives me a personalized nutrition plan for the day based on my measurements. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/newsworthy to get 15% off your Lumen. That's Lumen, LUMEN.me/newsworthy for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Now back to the news. New research lays out a grim forecast for one of the 7 wonders of the natural world. It says this generation will probably see the demise of Australia's Great Barrier Reef, the largest living ecosystem in the world. That is, unless there is far more urgency to rein in climate change. The study found ocean temperatures surrounding the Great Barrier Reef are at their highest in at least 400 years. It's an issue that's been impacting reefs all around the world. The extreme heat causes coral to bleach, and if that lasts, the coral could die of starvation. And that's a big concern. Reefs are key to seafood production and tourism. They also protect shorelines from erosion. So the author of the most recent study says efforts should be focused on cutting greenhouse gas emissions to zero as quickly as possible and protecting reefs that are faring best in the ocean's heat. He predicts most reefs will crash, but will come back in hundreds or thousands of years. For the first time, the CDC is addressing how painful it can be to get an intrauterine device, aka an IUD. In case you're not familiar, an IUD is a T-shaped contraceptive device that doctors can put in with a procedure every few years. But horror stories have been going viral on social media lately, with some women even posting videos of themselves crying while their IUD is being put in. In many cases, pain management options are not offered, and when they are, they're often denied by insurance companies for being unnecessary. Well, the CDC's new guidance could change that. The Federal Health Agency is recommending doctors counsel women about pain management before the procedure, and it's suggesting different pain relief options. For example, anesthetic gel, creams and sprays, as well as prescription medications or lidocaine shots. Airline passengers are now suing Delta in the wake of last month's big tech outage. You'll remember that outage caused thousands of flight cancellations, all because of an update from cybersecurity company CrowdStrike that crashed computers running Windows software. It impacted not only airlines, but also banks, hospitals, emergency lines, and a lot more all around the world. But Delta is being sued because impacted passengers say the airline refused or ignored their requests for refunds. They also say Delta did not give them meal, hotel, or transportation vouchers, forcing them to spend thousands of dollars more than they were expecting. So far, the airline has not commented on the lawsuit. But already Delta's CEO has said the outage cost the company $500 million, and he's threatening to sue CrowdStrike. Though CrowdStrike and Microsoft blamed Delta, saying its IT systems were not up to date, making the whole situation worse. So expect this to end up in court one way or another. Another restaurant chain has filed for bankruptcy. This time it's Buca di Beppo, the Italian family-style restaurant with locations across multiple states. And it comes after other restaurants like Red Lobster and Rubio's Coastal Grill also filed for bankruptcy this year. And Buca di Beppo cited similar reasons, like a decrease in sales, rising food and labor costs, and staffing shortages. Already, the chain has closed about a dozen locations, but it says the rest will go through some restructuring so they can stay open. In the meantime, it will keep accepting reservations and gift cards. Americans had another big day at the Paris Olympics. Team USA earned even more medals in track and field, wrestling, cycling, skateboarding, and more. And U.S. artistic swimmers are bringing home a medal for the first time in 20 years. Plus, the American women's basketball team and the American men's water polo team advanced to the semifinals. Overall, Team USA is leading the medal count by a lot. And there are still many more events to go before the Olympics come to an end this weekend. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, I want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor. This episode of The Newsworthy is brought to you by Wild Grain. In recent years, I've found some joy preparing fresh meals for my family and myself at home, but I still don't want to spend all day in the kitchen. I just don't have the time. Now, thanks to Wild Grain, I can save time without skimping on deliciousness. Wild Grain is the first ever bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, fresh pastas, and artisanal pastries. The team at Wild Grain just sent me a box, and there's so much goodness inside. Fresh fettuccine, fresh tonarelli, a beautiful sourdough loaf, croissants, slow-fermented brioche rolls, and more. I can take any of that right from my freezer to my oven, and it's ready in 25 minutes or less. I really appreciate that I can get that homemade taste, quality, and even experience without having to start completely from scratch. My family has loved it as well. Your Wild Grain box, though, is fully customizable, so you can choose any combination of breads, pastas, and pastries that you want. Also, Wild Grain just launched a brand new plant-based box featuring a wide selection of plant-based pastries, breads, and hand-cut pastas. Best of all, for a limited time, you can get $30 off the first box, plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/newsworthy to start your subscription. You heard me, free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/newsworthy. That's wildgrain.com/newsworthy, or you can use our promo code newsworthy at checkout. Okay, now back to Thing to Know Thursday. Schools all across the U.S. have adopted new ways to address students' mental health. They've been introducing yoga, meditation, and mindfulness exercises to help kids manage stress and emotions. It's something the CDC recommended last year when it reported more than a third of students were impacted by feelings of persistent sadness and hopelessness. Research has found mindfulness school programs can help, especially in low-income communities where students might not have access to good psychologists or counselors, even if they are dealing with stress or trauma. Well, now that schools have introduced breathing, meditating, and reflecting sessions, many teachers and administrators say they've noticed a difference. And even students told the AP the programs make them feel more relaxed and peaceful, so much so that many have started using the exercises they've learned at home. Granted, critics point out that teachers are not therapists, and there are boundaries that apply to what they can and cannot do. So many advocates are calling on more funding so all schools can get professional expertise from mental health practitioners. All right, thank you so much for listening today, and to all of you who help spread the word about The Newsworthy. We so appreciate you letting others know about why you listen and how they can follow and listen to The Newsworthy as well. So thank you again for all your support. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.